Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Factors Board, 25th of February. Apologies for absence. I think we've got Lisa Mullin. Lee. Don't think there's any apology. I think everyone is here. Just in terms of going around the table, because I know we've got some different faces around the table as well. So it might just be worth doing some introductions to help Kate with the minutes and everything else. So maybe Chris, if we can start with yourself.
Chris Williams, Head of ICT. Brian Thompson, Technical Services.
Gabrielle Greathead, Interim Monitoring Officer.
Dean Oda, Service Director.
I'm Ian Traylor, Service Director at RCT, and we provide the administration on behalf of South Wales Fire.
Dave, we'll come to you next, please.
Dave King, Fire and Rescue Service Association.
The Clifford Government Support Officer. Alison Reid, People Services Director.
Julia Thompson, Business Partner Pensions.
Kim Jail, North and South Wales Technical Lead for Pensions.
Gareth Tovey, Executive Council Member for the Fire Brigades Union in Wales.
Thank you. I'm Kate Owen. I'm a Secretary in the Secretariat team, and I'm here to take the minutes.
Okay, thank you. So back to the agenda, just item 2, declarations of interest, and you see that there's a little narrative there. So unless anyone's got anything to declare. Okay, thank you. So item 3, chairperson's announcements. There's nothing for me to announce other than welcome Brian to the committee for us, because Brian's taken over from previous member for the Fire Leaders Association. Thank you, Brian. Okay, so the minutes of the last meeting, if we could have a quick look through these, please. To ensure that we're all happy with content. So page 3 of the pack. Page 4. Page 5. 6. Page 7. Is everyone happy with the full count of the last minutes? So actions which are in your pack, page 9. So we'll just go through the actions. Minute item 724, which is the members handbook. This was around locating the members handbook and an email being sent out.
Yes, so apologies. I will send an email after this meeting. What I'll have to do is download the handbook for those who can't access our intranet. So I'll resolve that one shortly after this meeting.
Okay.
Cheers.
Next two are completed, and then on the page 10 of the pack, top one there, 1024, which is the service level agreement. This is for all members and to be included on the forward work plan for 25-26,
yeah,
which is done.
Yeah.
So we're happy that that was completed. Next we go 1024 7.3 service level agreement. So this was for Lee Bunkum. I know he's not with us too easy. Consider the development of a contract linking with the SLA. I've not had any updates from the.
No.
I think we probably need to keep that on and keep it open. We'll have ask Lee for an update at the next meeting. 10.3, which is the internal dispute resolution procedure. Again, this is for it to be included on the forward work plan. That's been done, so I think that's completed. And it's probably the same for next action down as well.
Yeah.
Alison, I would suggest.
Yeah.
Are you happy with those? Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
So that's our actions completed. So reports for decisions. We've got item 6, which is review for the firefighter pension scheme discretions. This paper is for yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I expect you all have had a chance to look at the report. Conscious that there's a lot of detail there. What I'm going to do is just give a brief sort of introduction to the report and then hand over open the floor for any questions. So basically, as the report says, as the scheme manager, I must explain how we are applying policy approaches to decisions around firefighter pension issues. Once the local pension board has signed off the policy approaches to each of the schemes, and you'll see there are policy approaches to the 3 different schemes that are currently in place, so 2007, 1992 and 2015. Once the pension board are happy with the discretion set out in this document and the levels at which discretionary decisions can be made, these need to be lodged with our pensions administrator. So these would be forwarded on to Ian's team so that there's transparency around at what level can people take decisions in relation to pension issues. You will see Appendix 1, it's quite a large document. It's sectioned into each of the schemes. And starting on page 15, what you will see is the reference to the regulation itself. So in the 2015 scheme, the first one is very straightforward. The scheme manager must establish a local pension board in accordance with the regs for the 2015 scheme. So this is a new discretion for us. We didn't have it previously in the set of directions that we've lodged with RCT. So we've included it in this round. So that's the approach to each of the regulations. You will see there's a descriptor and representative for to make or not. And then towards the end of the sections, I'm just going to find the page so that you don't have to. So for example, on page 37, there's then an illustration of the levels at which decisions can be made. So you've got the commissioner level A, B is the director or commissioner, and C is the manager, commissioner, HR level, finance, payroll, or our administrator. So the table after that page, so from 38 onwards, then sets out each of the regulations and at what level decisions can be made. So hopefully it's quite straightforward. Hopefully you've had a look at the document. The same approach applies for each of the other schemes, so the 2007 and the 1992 schemes. And as I say, this then sets in stone our policy approach going forward. We last updated our discretions in 2020. So given the fact that the 2015 scheme is now in play, we thought it was timely and relevant to review the discretions again. I would say probably when we went through them, Kim and Julia, most of them were quite static. There were 1 or 2 that were new. Yeah. But generally, what's there, you will have seen, or those of you on the pension board that have been here since 2020, will have seen some of this stuff previously. So I'll stop there, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions or queries for Alison? No?
I was just going to reference, Chair, from an administrative perspective. I think the tables are clear in terms of defining all the various discretions and really the accountability level within there in terms of the decision making. So from our perspective, in terms of Alison sharing these with us, it's clear for us in terms of the decision powers.
Exactly. Yeah, that probably helps us a lot, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess if there's no other queries, I think the recommendations were that members approve the new statements of policy attached to the report, Appendix 1. So unless anyone's got any queries, I think we're all happy to approve that. And to members authorise officers to provide RCT pension fund administrators with a copy of the approved policy statement. So I'd be happy to do as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Okay, so then we've got page 85 in the pack, which is the next agenda item. This is review of the key performance indicators. You probably take us through this one.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This usual standard report for members, provides summary of the activity and performance during the interim period between the previous report to board, and provides recommendations to members of the local pension board note the performance of the data in Appendix 1, and that members note the relevant pension administrative overview. So if I move to page 88, that's not 88, sorry. 89. So 89 sets out in Appendix 1 sets out the table of our performance. So this relates to what I would class as perhaps some of the day-to-day activity that we undertake on behalf of South Wales Fire, and they're the key performance measures that we provide. We track the performance throughout the year, and we provide narrative then at the ends of the tables, which gives board some information, I guess, and confidence in relation to our compliance throughout the period. We set that out for the different schemes where cases are completed during that period, and the percentage increase, as I said, a tracking percentage increase for your information. There can be challenges on individual cases which do delay us on occasions, but we try where possible to meet those targets that we've set out within our SLA and agreed with South Wales Fire as an indicative target, which challenges us to ensure that there's we provide a best most efficient service to your scheme members. Moving on to page 95, sets out some of the narrative around where our scheme members, I guess, or where your scheme members can help us in terms of our member self-serve statistics. And I think we discussed this quite a bit at the last board, and this is something that we'll continue to track in terms of our membership. And it's fair to say that within within South Wales Fire, the sign up to this is extremely positive when we compare it to the local government pension scheme, where we still get our challenges of getting people onboarded. It's clearly important portal for scheme members to access and provide information. So we continue, and we welcome any support from the trade unions, obviously, in terms of supporting that take up in terms of activity. Scheme member complaints. So in terms of formal complaints that will fall into that formal category, there weren't any to report during this period. And I guess, I suppose, moving on to key activities, and this is I'm sure an important one for you to get an update on in terms of where our focus certainly has been in recent times. Well, our focus has been now for quite some time, but we have the remedial service statements, we have a statutory timescale for the provision of those by the 31st of March. So when we talk about active members, and I guess that the numbers sort of change as so apologies, some of this has already moved on. So we've got 110 members in scope there. We have immediate choice remedial service statements to actually produced by the 31st of March. So we focused some of these cases due to the high volume and that statutory deadline quickly looming as the 31st of March. We've made good progress. There's just been ongoing discussion with Alison and the team around, you know, how we prioritise these, how we ensure we're able to provide information where possible to our scheme members. There's still some challenges within the mix around divorce guidance that we still have to receive, but that will obviously hit a smaller proportion of the members that we're talking in scope. So our goal is to push on with these and issue as many as possible. I know the statement is currently being tested for the majority of scheme members. The immediate choices now are almost complete. A number have already been issued. We have tapered individuals within the mix there that take a little bit longer as well to undertake. So they're in the mix as well in terms of prioritising and issuing prior to that 31st of March date. But it's certainly certainly an ongoing challenge, I could say, for the team to meet these statements for obviously the scheme members by that due date. 23, some other activity that's again falling back into the day-to-day, I suppose. The 23-24 pension savings statements and remedial pension savings statements were issued on the 6th of October by the 6th of October deadline, and the annual benefit statement statutory deadline now, which we're aware we have to produce by the 31st of August. And we generally try and get those out during sort of July time, rather than wait until the end of August for that period. The team have been working on the pensioners with backdated pay increases, so they've now all been processed. And obviously, again, day-to-day or current retirement. So whilst we're working on remedies and ensuring statements are in place, there's still the day-to-day of people retiring during the period, and it's clearly important to those that the benefits are paid to time. The member tax amendments have been updated to HMRC via the new process that was required by HMRC. Continue to have our regular meetings with Alison and the team. I think that's clearly important, and the wider sort of coffee mornings where we get a better feeling of the industry of what's happening out there within the wider fire service, particularly around remedies and statements and that kind of activity. So we continue to work with the regular briefings. We have representation on the LGA Matthews Forum, so I guess that's in the mix, still in the mix as well. I'm sure colleagues will be aware. The 2024 valuation data provided to the government's actuary department by the 1st of December 24. So that's something that a cyclical review that the government's actuary does. So that information has been provided. Pension dashboard program. Just to remind, I guess, members on that, that's a national program whereby government's ambitions is to provide a portal to members who believe they have pension savings. They will tap into this portal as a search functionality to potentially find different pension pots so they might have changed employment through a period. So the local government you could see information on their local government pension. You may see service in relation to their fire pension, or it might just be a private pension the ambitions of the government is to get all pension providers to sign up to this portal. But for public sector schemes, there's a deadline of October of this year to onboard or provide the link to our data, our annual benefit statements for the purpose of dashboarding. So we've already signed up to what's called an ISP, an integrated service provider. That's something that a little bit extra for and yourselves in terms of that linking. That's the provider that takes the information from our system to this area, which is searchable then by individuals. When individuals go into this national program, my understanding is what they'll see is their latest annual benefit statement. It doesn't give the level of detail perhaps that the My Pension Online provides, which has got far more improved functionality. This is more of a search function really to find missing pots that you may think you have from a prior employment. So it'll only come back and provide you with your latest annual benefits. When I say it'll only come back, there's a lot of technology involved in that. There's a lot of testing for us to be assured that we're providing the right information to the right individual when they're coming into this for a search, and lots of security, as you can imagine, around data protection and everything around that exercise. So that's a large exercise going alongside the day-to-day. Preparations underway for pension increase and the data scores. This is something that the pension regulator requires as part of the scheme requirements. They've been provided to the pensions regulator as part of that update. So again, we link a report into the data we hold, and then it churns out these data scores, but it also churns out some information whereby we can improve that or try and harness some of that those improvements where we may have some missing data fields. So again, high percentage here in terms of data quality scores for South Wales Fire. I'll pause there, Chair. I know it went through quite a bit there, so I'm happy to take any questions from members.
Yeah, no, thank you, Ian, and thanks for the update. I've got a couple of queries, but I'm just going to open it up because I know there'll be a few people probably wanting to ask a few queries.
Yes, thanks, Chair. So I just had a question, Ian, just for clarification for myself. The members who retired prior to the application of the retrospective pay award for the years 22, 23, 23, 24, they've now had their pension uplifted to reflect that pay award. I think you addressed that at that point. Just wanted to make sure that's all done now, that bit of work's done.
Yeah, that's the backdated pay increase.
Yeah, so brilliant, thank you.
Yeah.
And then just further, I've got some questions around RSSs. I'll take your lead, Chair, on whether that's relevant for us to address here or in the next item, which is not plan. For sure.
I'm happy either way. I'll take a bit of a steer really in terms of, do you want to address it here now, or is it better off leaving it till the next?
Can we do my report and then we can maybe jointly answer those? Is that okay?
Yeah. Great, thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. And I think I'll probably answer some of the queries that I was talking about. Yeah, priorities, etc. And I had a few queries around the communications, and maybe we can pick that up because I'm thinking about the members that are in scope. As you said, you might be able to meet some of the targets, but not all. And I guess how we address that with communications to people that's probably not going to receive their RSS in time, I would suggest. But maybe we can pick up the next agenda items. Okay. Is there any other queries, Ian, or that? No? A big thank you, Ian. I appreciate all the information. Well, thank you very much. Okay, so that moves us on to item agenda 8. which is public sector pension scheme legislation, McLeod and O'Brien remedies. And I think Kim's probably yourself as an Alison.
Yeah, should I do a bit of an intro? I think the first thing I wanted to say on this paper is a thank you to both teams. McLeod and O'Brien, as members will know, it has been a hell of a journey for pensions administrators, and team is working through the legislation, trying to understand what that means and looks like. So, and I think just casting our minds back a year or so ago, where we were one of the few fire and rescue services to implement immediate detriment. So we were actively allowing pensioners to leave with a payment, which I know other FRSs were kind of very cautious in that space. So I just wanted to reflect on the journey that we've been on, both from an administrator and a pensions team internally. Turning to the hard deadline of the 31st of March, which is looming very fast for McLeod. I think one of the things that Ian's just alluded to, and I think in Kim's report, highlights that there are challenges that we are now facing in terms of meeting that 31st of March deadline. I do want to say that the teams have worked hard. This has not been an easy task. I think we're in a position now where it's a case of prioritising the cases so that, at least we are moving forward with those who are at detriment and are getting, the information they need and deserve to make decisions on. So I think it's probably fair to say, based on what I've heard today and the conversations I've been having with my team, that 31st of March, we are not going to see every case processed. I think we're now in a space of, with 4 weeks to go, working out what does that look like for us. On the basis that we may not meet that deadline or are not going to meet that deadline, we will need to self-report to the pensions regulator. So just to make members aware that we will have to let the regulator know that we haven't met the 31st of March deadline. I think there's a lot of information in certainly Kim's report, some of the figures that Ian's read out. So I think for board, you probably want to get a sense of, okay, we understand that. What does that mean? What's the magnitude of not meeting the 31st of March deadline? And so it'd probably be helpful to hear from Ian and probably Kim and Julia in terms of where we think we're going to end up. And I think, Chair, your point about communication is key here, because we will start to see, we've seen it already across social media, asking now, are they getting their money by the 31st of March, or paperwork to decide what that looks like by the 31st of March. So I think comms are going to be really key out of this conversation as well. So I'll pause there and hand over to Ian, maybe. What do you want?
That's happy for it.
Do you just want me to just briefly flick through the report just for what's happened since last came? Yeah.
Yes, please.
So for, I think, the vast majority, this is a standing item report on the agenda, comes forward every time. So the history and the background of the 3 legislative projects is static, really. So I just thought I'd update on where we've gotten to since the last LPD. So for McLeod, that's been in real play since the 1st of October 2023, with an implementation of the airline set out in legislation of March 2025, where individuals who are entitled to an RSS should have received one by that date, and then they have, I believe, up to a year after that to come back and make options clear. So just a little update on some numbers for McLeod. So as Ian alluded to, they're split into cohorts. So the first cohort that we provided data on were 55 individuals that fall into the ill health and beneficiaries category. And secondly, we're prioritising, with agreement from our administrators, our retirees that have fallen under the paper and unprotected category. So those that are probably more at financial detriment than some other groups. And there's about 36 of those, Joe. Yeah. So the provision of data is now complete. to our administrators. And I know, to be fair, the administrators have already been processing the ill health cases. I think Jen's maybe up to 2025, where the RSSs have actually gone out. Now, to slow this process down, to be fair, it's taking the administrators 1 full day on average per case, because these retrospective calculations cannot be done by the system. That's right, isn't it, Ian?
That's all right. Yeah.
So anything that's retrospective and for pensioners has to be done manually. And when you think about, there's a 7-year window of adjustments for service and salary, plus in addition, what we call the red group, so those that previously incurred a scheme sanction charge. There's a now very complicated offsetting process that HMRC have provided guidance on. I looked at that, it was like 26 pages long, and I thought, I'm glad I'm not dealing with that. To be fair, that in itself, you know, is just blown timescales out of the water, but they're the ones that we are actively trying to prioritise to receive an RSS by the end of March. The next group are the actives. So those in active service that are eligible to receive an RSS, although they don't have to make an option choice per se until they retire. But those that are in the active category, a little bit easier, I think, because the system will generate the template. We are working with the administrators at the moment to tweak, if you like, the narrative on those templates, because the legislation in Wales is somewhat different to those that owe contributions. So in England, just to make you aware, when an individual receives their RSS, they have a 12-week window in which to elect to pay back their contributions owed, and they must pay it back in a lump sum. Once the 12-week window is elapsed, it falls to the next year when they're provided. In Wales, very different. So in Wales, the Welsh Government have decided to take that away completely, and an individual has up to 10 years to pay back in periodical contributions at any point after they received an RSS, and they will receive those annually. So in Wales, we are coming up with a process for what they call in the contribution adjustment process. So the services know who's doing what, the member narrative in the RSS will amend. So when the member receives the RSS, they know who they need to contact, they know what the process is going to be, and we will for sure be telling them that they are entitled to elect to pay back periodically if they wish. So that should take, we hope, a lot of the comms away that are targeted towards the administrator, and we'll make it clear how they need to contact the service. And then we've developed an internal process that's a suite of communications. Julia and her team will know who's doing what, tweaks to the calculations, and then we'll write out to the individuals. The deferred category, we have already agreed with RCT that should the need arise, they will, I suppose, to use the words less of a priority is not fair, but they will fall further down the list. They will receive an RSS, but in reality, we don't think that can be achieved by March. So it will be post-March. And then also post-March, we're probably looking for the retirees that are fully protected. And very few of those are likely to be at financial detriment. Going back to Alison's point, when we do come to the 31st of March, we will need to self-declare to the TPR. And at that point, we will need to link in with our administrators for numbers on. So what numbers haven't been achieved by that deadline and in what groups. So going back to the communications, we will communicate with anybody that should have received an RSS and doesn't. The LGA have been very supportive in providing recommended content for those comms, quite rightly, where we'll communicate with the members to let them know that we have self-reported to the TPR. We will let them know when they can now expect to receive an RSS by, so there'll be a secondary deadline informed to them. And we'll also need to tell them what processes we've put in place to ensure that happens. So rather than just sending a letter saying we're really sorry we missed the deadline, we'll be back to you shortly, we're going to need to be very specific now around when and how that's going to happen. But we will be linking in with RCT around those. So that's a very brief overview of the current space we're in for McLeod. It is quite frustrating for both organisations, but I think with the regular meetings, you know, we'll get to a place where the 31st will arrive. So many will have been sent out for sure, but it's about being clear about which ones haven't. So we'll target those members. They won't be just generic comms sent out. Any questions for McLeod at this point?
Yeah, sorry, Owen, I've got quite a few,
Fine,
but
it's fine.
just to, before we get into the RSS parts,
Yeah,
where you said it's slightly different around the RSSs in Wales as compared to England, and there's a
Yeah.
10-year period that can be
Yeah.
paid back periodically.
yeah.
Well, how is interest applied? Is that still the same as in England?
So there's two areas of interest applied. So
Yeah.
in the provision of the RSS, there's interest and tax adjustments applied through the GAD calculator
Yeah.
relating to the historic contributions. For anybody that doesn't want to pay a lump sum and wants to take up the offer of the periodical contributions, there is a standalone calculator that GAD have provided that provides interest calculations going forward. So if somebody, say, wants to pay over 5 years, there will be interest applied at the NS&I rate over the 5-year period, so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's great, thank you. And I think you're right, comms is key, and it's
Yeah.
hard to try and explain some of these things
Yeah.
in simple terms.
Yeah.
So but onto RSSs now, and
Yeah.
the fact that we're going to miss the deadline. Where are we looking like? We must have an idea about numbers. We must have a kind of what do you call it when you predict the future?
Forecast.
A forecast, right? We must have something there. I'd be really keen on understanding that. I'd also like to understand why we've missed this deadline. And I understand that capacity is an issue, but there will be some instances, for example, divorce debits, which have been largely out of both the administrator and the scheme manager's hands. So I'd like to understand where that failure is. I'll leave it to those two questions for now, if that's okay.
Jump in on the
Yeah,
likely numbers first,
I
yeah.
think for me, for volume, obviously, you know, as Kim mentioned, it's certainly been a challenge for the team, the complexity around some of those calculations. You know, we have senior officers dedicated to resourcing this, and because it is manual, because nobody could write anything to undertake this retrospection. We've got a senior officer undertaking those calculations that Kim referenced, and another senior officer going back through to check them, because what we don't want is obviously you know, inaccurate information going out to those members. So there's clearly a lot of time involved to resource these statements. I'd say, and I know this is obviously South Wales Fire meeting, certainly from the wider, I suppose, fire world. You know, we're not unique here in terms of some of these challenges, given some of the deadlines we've had in terms of the information and the guides that have come up that both teams have had to, you know, work our way through. So that was certainly added to the timeline challenge. But yeah, in terms of the you know, those immediate cases, they will be resolved. So I think Kim referenced around 55 in there. I think there is a mixture within there that also linked to Matthews 2 as well.
Yeah.
So
I think there's
an added,
6, so we'll take those out.
so there's an added complexity in there that we're going to have to deal with. In terms of the active members, you know, that's the lion's share. So there's 400 plus that will have their statements, subject to, I suppose, the divorce ones, which you obviously referenced as well. They're gonna cause us an issue, and where South Wales Fire might be waiting on information for where people are transferred in. There'll be some in the mix where information has been requested, or we haven't had that back yet.
Just to come back in really quickly, sorry, Ian, just specifically on the divorce debit example, who has failed to provide that information? That's what I'm trying to get at, because I've seen reference documents that suggested that information was going to be provided by October of last year on that issue. And now we're in February. I've seen some other documents that suggest that it's likely to be now in February and March. But what it's meaning for people, and it's important we don't, and I'm not suggesting anyone is, but we don't lose sight of this, is people are not being able to retire right now where they would have, because financially it doesn't make sense. They can't, it's not viable for them until the remedy's in place. Plus we've got, and I'm really pleased to hear that we're prioritising already retired members, because some of them have been nearly retired for nearly a decade, but with a pension that is lower than what it should be. It's a significant amount of time.
I can jump in maybe on the divorce if you want.
Yeah.
So the fault, for want of a better word, blame, lies not with any of the service nationally or the administrators. The guidance has just not been available through government stroke LGA. So I don't know what the complexities are, but obviously until the administrators are privy to that guidance, nothing can be done. And for those individuals, it's no good us saying, well, there's only a few cases in every service, because to them, it's important, of course it is. But we can't do anything about progressing that. The last update at a coffee morning, I think might have been last week, and the January bulletin was exactly that. Depending on when the court order was signed, I think it was pre-October 23 or post, separate guidance, separate approach. Some guidance launched in February, although we are still yet to see that, and some in March. And that's as much as I can say, other than it's a national issue, and we're not entirely sure whether the slowness of that guidance is governmental or through the LGA. But what I will say is with the LGA, they seem to be fairly quick in turning out some guidance once they have a definitive position.
And last question from me, and then I promise I'll go away for 5 minutes. Is there a potential cost to us in respect of interest for the people that there will be a cohort of people that we owe contributions to? And now, if the longer these are delayed, will there be a cost to us from that delay because of the application of interest?
Yes, basically.
And have we got any idea what that might look like?
No. It's a long and short.
No, that's fine.
I'll say they're in the minority. We think they're in the minority. So this is individuals that have been predominantly in the 2015 scheme, as you all know, and then the 7 years they're going to go back to their legacy, which in the 2007, the contributions are at a lesser rate. So there will be far less instances of the service owing money rather than the individuals owing money to the fund. Just to make you aware, and we don't know why, but when an individual is entitled to what is a refund of contributions, that is not being categorised as a refund of contributions. That amount will not be refunded from the pension fund. It will hit the services I&E account in the revenue, and it's being classed as compensation. Don't ask me why I don't know. Yeah. So there will be a cost for service. It won't be reimbursed by Welsh Government. It's categorised as a compensation payment. But in the workings out, Gareth, the tax adjustments and the interest payments, stroke adjustments, are all captured in the same way as if somebody owed the service. It's just around the other way.
Thank you.
I was just going to flag another delay area. I know we pointed to guidance here on the LGA, but obviously the government's actuary department as well on some of those calculation requirements. That's where we've hit some barriers, I suppose, and some of that information coming through last minute, I think February now for some category here. So it's clearly doesn't give us a large window to implement that, to understand what it's saying and doing the calculation at the same time. But certainly I agree with Kim. There's, I don't think there's anything within the gift of South Wales Fire and us as an administrator, because we can't just wave a wand of magic people in that are able to do this kind of complexity overnight. But we all totally agree with the frustrations being experienced by the scheme members.
And just to close this off, written in the legislation is a small piece that says the scheme manager has the discretion to extend the March 2025 deadline for those individuals that, I'll use the divorce case as a very good example, where it's not been possible to complete those. But they are not expecting that one to be waived for large groups of people. We would not be able to say, oh, we're extending the deadline because we've not met the actives or the deferred or the protected retirees. It's designed for the very difficult ad hoc cases, or link to O'Brien, and another very good example. So that discretion can be applied in very small numbers where that need arises, if you like. I move on to O'Brien. Okay, so O'Brien has been running predominantly alongside MacLeod. In Wales, the timing is slightly different to England. It commenced in February 2024, the deadline of July 2025, 18 months, but slightly moved on where England are. This is a second options exercise, and it comes after the first matrix exercise, which was implemented in 2014-15, which allowed individuals on-call staff to buy service back to July 2000. Since then, another High Court judgment has been recorded in so much as those individuals can now buy back service to the date that they started, for example. So we have some calculations, I think, going back as far as the 1960s and the 1970s, just to give you an idea of how far back this piece of work is. So in South Wales, the service wrote out to 478 individuals that were eligible based on the criteria contained in the report. That's written in the legislation, and 236 individuals formally responded that they would like to see what that might look like, both in the pension benefits that they would receive and the contributions they would need to pay. So they expressed an interest. To date, Julia, how many returns did we have?
55 pensioners returned their forms. So
Yeah. So we then progressed to actually providing calculations to individuals who expressed an interest. And of the 120 odd that went out, to date, 55 are written back to say, yes, please, I'll take that offer. We're holding those at the moment because linking in with RCT, staff there due to MacLeod are not able at the moment to process and put those pensions into payment. And obviously that's something we'll need to be picking up, I think, come towards the end of March to see where we can maybe make some room for that to happen. Again, a hugely complex piece of work for both services, but completely different. And of note, England have, it may have just closed, put a consultation out to the Home Office on a number of areas that affect O'Brien, from survivor benefits to member category status, but more interestingly, the possibility of an extension of the English deadline by 12 months from March 25 to March 26. So we have been in touch with Welsh Government, and on a call this week sometime, whenever that was, Tuesday, so no, last week now. They have confirmed that it is their intention to do a Welsh Government consultation. They do intend to follow suit, and they do intend to include the possibility of a 12-month deadline to July 2026. But they don't have the resources at the moment to run that consultation alongside the employee contribution review. But just to be clear, you know, we don't know when that consultation is going to be launched. That could be pretty much as our current deadline is expiring. So the service and the administrators will need to just continue at pace until we know for definite whether there's going to be an extension or not. But I think, to be fair, the forecast probably looks as if most of the communications will have gone out from South Wales in providing figures to those who have expressed an interest. So I think the service and the administrators will be well underway with that piece of work and may not need the extension, although across Wales, I think that's very much welcomed. Annie O'Brien.
And that's
Sorry.
Done.
We have discussed at this forum before that some steps were put in place to make sure we're doing everything that reasonably practicable to make contact with people
Yes.
where we haven't had replies.
Yes.
I think we had procured the use of a company to chase things up. How did that go? Did that
Julia
manage?
can update on that.
Yes, we linked in with this company, ITM. We are working with them. We just need to sign off the data protection. I think we've got Gabby to look at it, and we're waiting to sign that data protection off, and then it'll go, we'll get them on the case there, working with it. We've sent out another batch of communications on the basis RCT had some addresses that we didn't have for people who were deferred. So we've sent out another lot of communication. We've got some more back from that. But yeah, we posted it where we can on social media sites as well. The poster that we've had, we sent that out to station. Anybody who rings asking questions, we do ask them to pass on to any ex-colleagues that they have. So we are making all reasonable endeavours that we can, we feel anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else on O'Brien? No? Just a quick pensions dashboard programme update. It's pretty similar to Ian's. It's a national exercise. It's being led by the DWP. The fire sector nationally has a staging date of October 2025 to link in, as Ian explained, with the ISP for dashboard purposes. And previously, Ian's team have assured us that they are in a position to meet that October 2025 deadline. And obviously, if they need something from the service with regards any form of checking or data clarity or anything like that, they just need to reach out. And that's a pretty static picture for dashboards.
I'd just add to that, Kim, there probably are things that we can, that something we'll have to sign off on, because clearly it's your data,
Yeah.
albeit we hold on your behalf. Just thinking of some of those data sharing things further down
Yeah.
the line.
Yeah.
Won't be fully pressed on.
And that's it from me.
good. Thank you, Kim, and thank you, Ian, as well. I think I'm just going to look at Kate slightly, because I'm thinking there's a lot of information there, Kate, with numbers and deadlines and everything else. I'm just wondering, is there anything we need to re-clarify just for the minutes in terms of some of the detail that was discussed then?
I think she says confidently that I've got everything, but I can just drop Kim a little.
Yeah,
note.
that's
Is that
fine.
okay?
No problem.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
there's a lot of information there.
Yeah.
But thank you for that, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. And the other thing in around the communications, and I mentioned it briefly, was around there are members of scope that are not going to have their RSSs by the end of March. Will we leave it till the end of March to communicate with those individuals, or when we identify that they are not going to be met, we send it at that point or wait till the end of the month?
So the feeling is that we'll link in with colleagues in RCT come like mid-March-ish, because it is a fast moving game at the moment. And we don't really want to write out to individuals and then they subsequently receive an RSS, albeit it's good news. The chatter on some of the Facebook and social media groups can be quite brutal, to be honest with you. So we would rather be right. So we will link in with RCT a week or two before, and get a definitive list and target those specifically.
Yeah, I think that'll help, only because it's just, you're going to be inundated with queries.
Yeah.
I guess Ian's teams will, your phone will be ringing off the hook.
I think just to note and put in the minutes as well, and you might be aware of this, Gareth, there's been chatter that nationally we have started to receive queries that anyone who doesn't receive an RSS by the 1st of April should, and there's been encouragement nationally, lodge an IDRP into their services on an individual basis. We are starting to see that. And I know Julia's team has received one IDRP this week and 6 or 7 requests for packs. And unfortunately, I sympathise with the individuals, but unfortunately, when that happens, if that's by volume, that's all that will do is detract from the people who are trying to get the RSSs out. But just to make everybody aware that that is happening, I think that's going to gain pace.
It's a risk as well, isn't it, for us? Yeah. Okay. Is there any other queries from anyone else? No? Okay, well, thank you. Thanks for the report. Okay, so back to the agenda. So I think we're on agenda number 9, which was about dashboards. I think Kim might have just covered some of this out, so I don't know what
Yeah.
else you need to cover off.
Yeah, just a couple of words really, just to say that the pensions regulator has been in touch with us to confirm our onboarding date, 31st of October. When I was having a little peek around the TPR website, there was quite a neat preparation checklist. I downloaded and attached to the report. I thought, you know, it could be something that we could update and bring back to board so that you've got assurance that we're doing everything we need to do, working with the administrators. Ian's already mentioned the quality of the data, and those are the kinds of things that you know, we're going to be required to check. So if members feel this is helpful, we can perhaps do a little bit of work on the technical.
And it's national criminal court.
Yeah.
Saying
Sorry. Apologies, Chair. And I was.
Okay. So if members feel that the preparation checklist is helpful, we could perhaps use this and bring it back to the board to the next meeting, as a way of assuring members that we are doing everything we need to do, working with the administrator as well.
Okay, thank you, Al. Increase for Alison as well. Okay, thanks, Al. So we're on item agenda 10, Alison, which is 119, and this one's for you, publications after implementing information.
Yes, I wasn't going to point around the content of these, but as before, these are the bulletins issued by LGA, and they're there for your perusal. Some of the issues we've discussed today around executive divorce, guidance relating to McLeod are covered off in some of these bulletins. So as I say, I'm not going to go through them in detail, but just in there for your awareness. And if you have a spare 5 minutes to read out your letter.
Thank you, Al. Then we're on page 123, which is the third forward work programme. I'm just looking at the one for June in particular. Yeah, do you want to
So obviously this is the last meeting for this financial year, which is what this forward work programme covers. So there will be a new forward work programme for the 2025-2026 financial year's meetings, which isn't included in this pack at the moment. But as we've discussed, a lot of the items that come to this meeting are standard agenda items, so there shouldn't be too many surprises for the next meeting, which is in June.
Okay. What's that? Any questions of anyone? Anyone any concerns? Okay, number 12 then is consider the items of business. I don't have any, but we'll put the next one down, which is the board of commissioners. I think probably we would need to look at information and prepare something out just in terms of the code here.
Yes, on that point, I have briefed the lead commissioner, Kirsty Williams. So she is aware that this conversation is happening today.
Yeah.
But we're meeting on Friday, so we can't put an update for meeting on.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there anything else from anyone on the table? Dave, anything from you online?
No, everything seems fine at the moment. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Okay, our next meeting, I think. June 18th. There we go. Okay, so I guess we keep our selves ready for March 31st and anything that comes out after that as well. But thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
I say.